Welcome back, Bears fans. My name is Quentin Crisco, and we're here to talk about the Bears rookie right tackle, Darnell Wright. You can find me on Twitter at BucketStats, and you can also find me on the Shaving Points podcast and the Bears on Tap podcast. If you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, or comment. That being said, let's get down to football. Through the first 4 weeks of the season, Darnell Wright is my highest graded offensive lineman on the Bears. His grade is elevated by a large amount of good and dominant reps, but it's also offset by a large amount of poor and bad reps, which is typical for a rookie. But he has more good and dominant reps than I expected, which is really why he is rated as the Bears' highest graded lineman for me so far. But let's dive in. The first thing I want to point out with Darnell Wright is the amount of near holding calls you do see on his tape. He's all about making the refs call it and finding that gray area, which I'm all for. Here's an example from week 1 where the defender seems to think he was held, and maybe he was, but he put the ref on the spot to call it, which I like. That's kind of a big part of NFL offensive line, I think, that you have to make the refs call things that might be in the gray area, might be more questionable, but you have to find out where those lines are. Now, with that in mind, let's look at some of Wright's run blocking. In college, Wright was not known for his prowess as a run blocker. It was honestly one of his weak points. But through the first 4 games of the season, I have Wright graded as the best run blocker on the Bears. On top of that, PFF has Wright ranked as the best run blocking offensive tackle among rookies and the 13th ranked run blocker at offensive tackle in the NFL. I want to start the discussion looking at his scoot and root technique. Watch how Wright jumps into the spot, squared up to the defender, and roots his feet before making contact. On this next rep, we're looking at a combo block, where Wright is asked to help Carter by clearing the lane before reaching the second level. Wright actually gets a little bit too much rotation in his pads and hips here before releasing, but his athletic ability allows him to still reach the linebacker. And he does a really good job of defining the run lane for the running back in the process. Even though his footwork is too vertical off the snap, Wright is able to execute. That's what elite athletes can do for you. Now, let's get a look at what the footwork should look like. On this combo block, Wright takes the full man, while Marcedes Lewis has the half man. First, watch Wright's feet here. They actually move backwards a little bit, which is correct, but his frame is moving forwards. This is exactly what you want to see here. The backwards movement is the scoot, and the planting of the feet is the root. If you do not root before contact, you have no power. Then his arms go straight up and through the defender in a lifting motion with minimal windup. Everything outside of his initial footwork on this rep, really nice. You like what you see there. Now, watch Marcedes Lewis. This is what Wright's initial footwork should have looked like on the last rep. See how he aligns his left knee behind Wright's right knee, roots, then explodes upwards into the defender's hip? Lewis doesn't release to the second level here, but the concept before the release point should be the same regardless. If Claypool hit his block, the right side of the line blocked it up almost perfectly. This might have been a home run. Also, there was a nice scrape across the line of scrimmage from Kansas City, number 43 here too. Sticking with combo blocks, watch Wright on this rep. He brings very little technique on this one, but wins the rep anyways, because of his mass, his power, and how he replicates his hands. His feet are slow, he doesn't root himself, and he lunges into the defender, killing his chances at a second level block. It's not to say Wright didn't make a good block here. He did. But he did in spite of poor technique. And there are signs of improving technique in his tape, since run blocking was not something he did a lot of at Tennessee. On this next one, we see tons of improvement. His root is a little behind his hands, and his scoot technique still needs some work, but he plays long with his arms, does eventually get rooted, and reaches the second level block smoothly. You'd like to see a little more force on the initial half-man block, but you'll take the improvement because as it becomes more natural to him to be doing this, you expect the power to follow. Now I want to discuss playing long. First, look at pass blocking. On this first rep, we see Wright do a good job on the block, but he attacks the defender with his shoulder instead of extending his arms into the block. Still a good block. I'm never going to complain about a block like this. but this does highlight a potential area of improvement for Wright to become more consistent. On the next rep, we see an example where this tendency bites him. He lunges into the block and ends up off balance and out of position. So this is where that consistency thing comes in. Like if he is able to get the technique side down of this, you'll hopefully never see a rep like this. On this final one, we see him settle out of his set and extend into the defender, controlling the rep from start to finish. Playing long is really, it's not a major issue for Wright when he's on time, but it's something I'd like to see him defer to more naturally when he's not on time or surprised, off schedule, see it become more natural for him. Now let's look into how he plays long on run plays. On this first rep, we see Wright take a big step and let the defender into his frame. Ideally, his feet would be more like Lucas Patrick, who roots himself with smaller steps just before contact. Because of the slow feet and the slow hands or punch, the defender is able to get into Wright and knock him backwards. Wright's strong and athletic enough to overcome it and generate push eventually here, but that won't be the case every time, and that initial step backwards that the defender forced him into, that might have been enough to close down a run lane for the running back in a split second when he's looking. On the next rep, we see Wright engage the defender with his shoulder rather than his length. No need to get into all the details here. Just know that he would control his man a lot better with his hands than his shoulder. And that's why the linebacker's able to wrestle away from him and go make the tackle. Wright got his man a few yards downfield, but the run could have gone for more. Now, as a puller, we see Wright come across the formation and dive shoulder first into his block. This results in him not hitting the defender squarely, ending up off balance and on the ground. He did manage to generate an extra yard or two for the run here, but had he extended and latched, maybe it could have been more. I'm not sure how clean it was on the ground around him, so maybe that factored into it here, but theoretically, if it was clean, you'd like to see him extend and latch. The last thing I want to talk about is Wright's ability to recover in pass protection. On this first rep, we see Wright take a jump set off the snap, and the defender is able to get inside position quickly. But Wright uses a strong anchor and a calm demeanor to motion his hands underneath and inside. Defender rips into his swim move at that point, but Wright's hands are ready to latch and prevent the defender from coming free. Very nice recovery despite allowing inside position right away. Next up, we see Wright take a short set off the snap, but his hands are late and wide. Again, the defender is able to get inside position, but the defender doesn't even attempt to bull rush, possibly knowing that would be a losing battle against Wright's anchor. I mean, look at the size difference between these two. And Wright's able to reset his hands inside and control the defender's chest through the end of the rep. So that one looked really nice. Now, let's look at his short set where the result was not as clean. We see Tampa run a stunt here, and Wright passes off Vita Vea with some really nice force, even though Carter may not have been completely expecting it. Wright put a little too much into passing off the defender, closing his pads to the looper coming in hot around the corner. Like, you can see his hips, his shoulders, they get really turned as he's pushing the guy. Ideally, you'd like to keep those square to the line of scrimmage. Again, you had a good enough result here because he was able to recover and keep the pocket clean enough for Justin to get the throw off. But it could be improved and help your quarterback out a little more by staying more square and covering that looper more easily. Now, let's look at a vertical set. Wright shows a tendency on his vertical sets to lunge into the defender, which leaves him off balance if they rip an inside move. As you can see here, he still executes the block well enough to let the QB get the ball out, but if he stayed more balanced in his upper half, not lunging, using his length, he would recover more easily on this inside move and more effectively. A little later in the game, we see another defender try the same thing against Wright's vertical set, but this time Wright does a better job keeping his upper half balanced and playing long, which results in an easier recovery on that inside move with a little help from Tyree Carter there. All in all, I see a really talented player in Darnell Wright, who's playing outstanding football for a rookie offensive tackle. His anchor and pass pro, raw power, and hand fighting have transferred over from the college level really well through the first 4 games. His athleticism and run blocking effectiveness have been really nice surprises that were not as clearly shown in his college tape. While there is stuff to clean up in run blocking and pass protection, this is a player who's looking dominant at times despite not being consistent in his technique yet, which gets me really excited about what he can become. That's all I have for you guys. Hoping to get another one of these out after week 8 or week 9 for a half season review on Darnell Wright. This is the quarter season review of Darnell Wright. You guys can find me on Twitter at BuckHisStats. And you can also find me at the Shaving Points podcast and the Bears on Tap podcast. You can find my writing where I do weekly reviews of the Bears offensive line and weekly reviews of every rookie defensive tackle in the NFL, including Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens over at ontapsportsnet.com. If you like this video, help me out with a like, subscribe, or comment, and tell me what you guys want to see. I'm here to make content, specifically Bears content or NFL content. So let me know what you want to see, what you want to learn about, and I'll see what I can put out there. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.